Welcome to the Etsy Conversations podcast, featuring inspiring interviews with Etsy shop owners, hosted by Ijama Elazu.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Etsy Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Ijama, and I thank you for joining me for another episode. And this week, I'm thrilled to have on a guest who came here by special request. And Sarah in London, this is thanks to you. My guest this week is Yas Imamura, and she runs the Etsy shop Quill and Fox. Yas, thank you so much for being my guest, and welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me. My name, as you mentioned, my name is Yas Imamura. I'm an illustrator based in Portland, Oregon. I make hand-painted cards that you can find basically online on Etsy and in various brick-and-mortar shops all over the country. So,
great. Now, you've been selling on Etsy for a while now. You've been on Etsy since 2010. Were you selling right from the get-go, or did you join as a buyer?
No, I was aware of Etsy like way back in 2005. I just hear it from people. But I've joined just right away. I know I was never a buyer, but the first time I joined Etsy was 2010, and that was, when we first launched the company, and that was my first, attempt at selling to people in general. So
wow.
2010. Yeah.
Okay. So you stayed for the long haul. You've seen Etsy evolve over and over again. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Now, before we go on, what specifically do you sell in Quill and Fox?
I sell hand-painted cards for the most part and a few notepads, but mostly, all of them are hand-painted. Most of them is like made here in Portland, Oregon, and all of them are made in the USA. So yeah, that's pretty much the bulk of what I do. But they're all hand-painted with using gouache and watercolor.
Okay. Now, you said when you opened your Etsy shop originally, you opened it to run your business. So how soon after you opened it, did the business take off? Were you already selling before you got on Etsy, or was Etsy the first venue that you actually started selling?
It was it was totally the first venue that I tried to sell my work. I knew right away that I wanted to kind of test the market online because it was such a risk-free way to kind of see what would stick out there. So, and Etsy has a really good system where you don't have to pay. Their kind of payment scheme was really great, where you only pay when you actually sell something. And I really love that because it really caters to different sized business. And back then we were super small. I only had like 7 cards, and I just wanted to see, and it was really great. And I've had my first customers were like my friends. It was great. Like they really bought a lot, and it was such a good ego boost. I think when you start your shop, your ego is super fragile. You want to see if it's going to be received, and that little bit of help really kind of creates a kind of a snowball momentum. And it was during November that we started it. I think it was like November 2010, and maybe it was a little bit of luck because it was during the holiday season too. So after my friends, I think it just kind of kept going. Like people started buying my Christmas cards. So good timing, I think.
Oh yeah, I know. End of the year is perfect time, especially if you already have some stock in your inventory. Now, how did you get into illustrating? Are you self-taught? Is this just something you'd been doing for a long time growing up? How did your art skills come about?
Yeah, definitely. I think I'm self-taught. I went to art school, but ironically, it was for a different reason. I think I took up I took advertising and marketing when I was in art school, which I think is really helpful. Actually, ironically, it just kind of like gave me an extra tool now that I own my own paper shop. But for the most part, when I was a kid, I just liked to draw, but I lost that kind of confidence, when you kind of grow up and you think, is it really a viable career, drawing for myself? So I tried to apply it to something a little bit more business geared, where it's like maybe I should be in advertising or marketing, anything that is slightly pseudo artistic. But then I grew out of that because when I went to art school, I got exposed to other expertise and major. And I've been exposed to a lot of graphic designers, and I realized, this is a thing. I could make my designs, make my own branding, and kind of just be able to share my own art and vision, that in a way that's viable. So I think, mostly self-taught, but I think I wouldn't underestimate like the sort of kind of extra nudge that like art school has given me for sure.
That's great. Now, did you ever, after graduating and getting your degree in advertising and marketing, did you ever practice in that field, or right away did you want to open your own business?
Oh, right. Yeah, it's actually kind of backwards. Before I even, because in the Philippines, I was born in the Philippines and I grew up mostly there, and we go to college way too early, like right straight out of high school, I think.
Yeah.
So I actually had an economics degree before my marketing thing.
Wow.
And yeah, totally went like 360 from being an artist to saying maybe I should just do math. I don't know. But I had a little bit of epiphany. I think art was always bound to reel me back in, because after graduating there, I thought, I want to do something artistic. And I actually ended up working for an ad agency back home, and, handled really very kind of corporate accounts. And it was kind of a taste, like I did Photoshop work and a lot of these kind of layouts and graphic design. And I was ironically doing advertising work before I end up taking doing advertising in school, because I when I moved to the States, I said, well, I wanted to really learn more about this to pursue this career when I moved to the States. But yet again, it kind of steered me to a more artistic direction, even away from marketing and just being an illustrator. So it kind of worked out. And yeah.
Right. I can relate in that I grew up in Nigeria, and I think the mentality is very much the same. I finished high school at 16, and it was like, okay, college next, and you move on.
Yeah.
And you
It's
come to
insane when
America
you
and
think
you
of it.
realize, oh my goodness, I was a baby.
Yeah, it was like everyone takes a gap year, and I'm like, you do that. That is so important to take a break, find out what you want in life.
But no, there's nobody believes in gap years. It's like,
No. That means your
you keep
parents are going to
going.
be so mad.
Yes,
Gap
exactly.
year.
It's like you keep going. You have nothing else to do but school, so keep going. So
I'm glad you can relate.
Yo, completely. And plus, I understand too about trying to pursue a living from what you do creatively versus what's considered a respectable career,
Yes.
advertising and marketing. You work for a big company.
Absolutely.
Making a living from art is almost unheard of. Oh my goodness,
Yeah,
your parents would
definitely.
have a heart attack.
It's a lot more explaining to do at the dinner table.
Yes. Yes. It's like, so you want to draw for a living?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, all right. So now you decided you were going to open your business on Etsy. And I know that there are a lot of artists out there too who have a skill, have a craft. They're good at making something and they want to bring that to the market. But sometimes what we make and love and want to sell might not necessarily be what's the best thing to sell on Etsy. How would you advise someone who is considering starting their own creative business to pick the most I guess appropriate product line to sell?
I think it's a really delicate balancing act, because on the other hand, you don't want to just completely be a slave to trends, because in that way you run the risk of just blending into the mix, and you don't stick out. So I definitely think that your individuality as an artist is so important. But at the same time, if something doesn't work, it's good to listen to, because you're a business owner as well too. And it's a balancing act. And for me, for example, I don't know, what is the big trends lately, like florals, and I can keep doing that. But at the same time, you just kind of you blend into everyone else's work, and you have to find a balance between like sticking out and being you, but at the same time, having your ear to the ground to like which designs you do sell the most, and what insight you can get from that, and because I've done really cool notepad designs that I thought would do so well, and then because it was one of those knee slap joke that maybe apparently only I can appreciate, and it doesn't sell, and then I was just like, well, it's great. I mean, if I was more of like a stubborn artist, I'll just keep producing it regardless. And I think it's just you learn as you go, and don't take it personally. I think when your art doesn't sell, just keep doing more, but not to the point where you compromise like what makes you unique. It's good to never lose that as an artist, because that's the only thing that's super important, and it's going to be a huge part of your growth to keep honing what makes you. But at the same time, if you're a business owner as well and you want to make it for a living, like for example, being a card shop owner, a lot of people, it's kind of a common knowledge to have 80% birthday cards, for example, and it can be daunting. Like I could say, well, I don't want to do that. I want to do random things. I'm sick of doing birthdays or whatever, but you gotta, there is some merit to it, and it doesn't mean that, your product suddenly becomes so stale because you're following trends. I think if you look at it as more of a challenge, more than a constraint, I think it will be cool to see like how your art blossoms from that and overcomes that kind of a business challenge. So it's a delicate balance. I think a lot of people would find that they'll learn as they go and keep retooling. If something doesn't sell, listen to what sells more and find that compromise. So, yeah.
And after having sold over 8,000 of your products.
Did I really?
Yeah, you did. So I'm sure you figured out, what works and what doesn't. What would you say is a good, like, when should one give up? And I know that's kind of hard to quantify, but when is it okay to say, all right, the market really is not receiving this product, I need to change? And I'm sure that will vary from product to product and seller to seller too. But for you, typically, what would be the turning point where you decide it's time to pull down a particular product or a particular design because maybe it's just not what anybody wants?
I think for me, when it comes to like my products, if it's not doing well in one run, like, because I love to see them fly off the shelves, obviously. And if it's struggling, like abysmally struggling in one run, like the first press run, and it's just sitting on the shelf, I usually don't. I kind of I retool it from there. I think it's kind of like what I learned, one of those awesome lessons I've learned being in advertising, because they're really brutal with feedback and killing your own ideas and even killing your own creative brainchild, regardless if you're super attached to it. I think it's good to have that as an artist and as an Etsy shop owner. It's like, hey, you may love this thing, but it's not working out. Just kind of like nip it in the bud, and I that's kind of what I do. I just, it's like, oh, I love it, but I'd rather make money. It's kind of a balance. It's like, well, or it's a challenge. I'm like, maybe there was something I love about it that I can improve upon in a different direction, and get what I wanted from that, and, keep at it. But this isn't working. And I think it depends on the cost, and, because every business has a different kind of, operation cost. For me, it's the initial cost of producing them and seeing how much space they're taking on the shelf, and how much more money I could have been making if I've been reproducing this in a much more rapid rate. And if you weigh those things, and if you can afford to kind of be stubborn, then I guess you can do that. But I like knowing and changing and improving upon it. So
I like that. Can you afford to be stubborn?
It's all about that.
So then what do you do with something that just doesn't sell and doesn't move, and you need to create space for that? Does that become like a gift to someone because no one was going to buy it?
My friends would love that. No, usually I just let it kind of slowly, like we were talking about, if you can afford, I'm lucky enough to, be able to afford to just kind of let it slowly kind of slowly get sold. It's not like I'm looking to pay my next apartment rent on like a few notepads, but sometimes you can help it out by just fly off the shelves a little using discounts, I guess, and or capitalizing on like holidays and say, hey, amazing notepads, or something like get him please. But but I think it's good not to be self-deprecating about it. Like don't ever be like, oh, no one buys these, and because I still love them. For example, I mean, some of the designs that don't sell, they're dear to my heart still, and it still shows when I promote them. I'm like, I really love these notepads, and they're 50% off today or something. Don't be self-deprecating about your work.
Right. Now, something else that's interesting that you're doing is you have a section in your shop for commission sales, basically, or I should say commission work. Mm-hmm. When did you start incorporating that into your offerings? I know that's something a lot of art, well, I shouldn't say a lot, but it's common in the art world to get commissioned work done. But you're the first person on Etsy that I've actually seen who through their Etsy shop is offering, the opportunity for someone to commission you to do a piece. How does that integrate into the grand scheme of your selling?
Well, first of all, I've seen a lot of people who do it too, but or maybe just a few actually. Mm-hmm. But I love it because it cuts through the the kind of inquiry process. So like how much it's going to be. I think I love that it's very streamlined. It's there, how much, and you can pay, and then we're right on schedule. I love doing. Yeah, it's something that I just added recently because it gives me a good opportunity to break away from the usual. Like some of the commission work I've done has really challenged me as an artist, because it's, because I'm giving them the final piece too. It's not just something I scan or reproduce it. They get the final work, and I think it's actually a pretty good price for original art.
I think so.
Yeah, and I just love having the opportunity again to, because I started doing Quill and Fox started as doing, we started doing wedding invites in the beginning, and I kind of miss that, I guess, like having to deal with people and kind of doing portraits of their family. Not so much weddings anymore, because there's a certain kind of energy with weddings that I can't keep up with. But I love this kind of it's my parents' anniversary, and I love seeing pictures of their animals and people they want to incorporate in the portrait. I love it, and it's just I end up doing art that I wouldn't usually do out of my own kind of initiative if I was just doing cards all the time. It's great for my Instagram. Like I love showing people something more than the usual. So
yeah. Now, how is a commissioned piece different than someone ordering a custom piece?
Oh, right. I think sometimes a custom work would be minor, from what I understand, at least for me, like minor tweaks, like if you want to change the, or like if you want an A2 card, for example, printed in like a slightly bigger format, I could do that.
Okay.
From what I understand with the custom option in Etsy in general, I think it opens up opportunities for other shops to service customers that want a different variation of a product, like if they want like a mixed box of cards. That's kind of what I thought people would do. It could be anything, I think.
Okay. Interesting. Well, I like that you're able to charge a premium for that, because then, even though you are spending more time than you would on your regular pieces, somebody gets to pay you a bit more, but then they get exactly what they want, but they know your style, and so it's in your style.
I love that. It's not like a graphic design work where you have a client and they'll tell you, this is the kind of, like, they already know my style and they come to me knowing what I'll do, and it's great. It's like a liberating feeling where it's like, all right, the deal.
Yes,
a lot of plans.
Exactly. I love that. So let's talk about your day-to-day and time management. What does a typical day look like for you, and how do you divide up your time between working on your business and still having a family life?
Well, I gotta be honest, it's a huge struggle of mine,
Yeah.
time management, because I work from home and but I actually just recently enlisted the help of a project manager to help me hit the goals each week. I think if anyone is having this similar problem too, I think it's good to know your boundaries. If you're kind of a day-to-day kind of person where you want to hit your goals every day, or are you more of a weekly person? I found out that I'm more of a weekly person. I think daily goals are too stringent for me. My typical day would be mostly to get all my production and admin email work done during the day. When the moment I wake up, get food out of the way.
Yeah.
Or during
minor issue food.
Yeah, minor. Just fuel. We call them fuel to go through emails. I do a lot of that in the morning. I just cannot do anything creative during the day when it's bright outside and there's so many other things to do. I get distracted easily. Are you the same way?
No, I'm at my peak during the day when the sun is out. Then when the sun goes down, I lose everything. My mind shuts down.
That's healthier. It's healthier. No, that's kind of how I am. There's so much stuff to do in the morning, and well, I guess I could be better. That's the thing. That's how time management is. Maybe if I actually, get more stuff done during the day, I can have my break during the evening, and then maybe if I feel like drawing, I can do it maybe sometime in the night or maybe the next day, in the morning. But it's kind of, but I'm definitely a night owl, and my husband works from home as well. Mostly he works at a studio. So I think when it comes to balancing work and family time, it's not that hard, I guess, because we both operate in the same kind of weird, clock, and we're always together. So it's like, it's a great balance. We know how to kick back, and we eat out a lot. That's kind of like our way to treat ourselves. To kind of, when you feel cooped up, you just kind of walk
to go out.
Yeah.
Now, so you said you enlisted the help of a project manager. That stood out to me. So is this an actual person that helps you streamline everything you need to do so that they just help you get organized with it? Or is it a project management tool that you're using?
Well, a little bit of both, but it's a person. She helps me kind of, we do like Wednesday meetings. We meet, we kind of just get on a call every week on Wednesday to kind of see where we are on like our schedule. If I've fallen behind, which is more, usually I do, and but kind of readjust things. So like, what you did, but this is how you kind of keep up, and this is the, and we do, or we want to do it eventually. We're thinking if we want to do Asana. It's a project managing tool.
I've heard of that.
Or Slack. I don't know. Do you like Slack?
No, I don't.
You don't like it?
I've used Slack and I don't like it, but I've heard Asana. I've heard of Asana. I haven't used it.
Why don't you like Slack? What's the thing? I haven't used both.
For me, I find Slack to not be very well organized. I need and maybe it's just because I haven't. The structure is too fluid for me. I like to put things in boxes, and I don't like the lines to move.
Right.
And with Slack, I feel like it's the boxes are too fluid, so it didn't work for me. Much. Yeah, they move too much, so it didn't work for me.
And it feels like a chat. It doesn't feel much different to any kind of chat app. Like I feel like it's just chatting.
Yes. Exactly. It was like another chatting app. It was hard to keep track of like, oh, okay, wait, no, I'm in the wrong conversation. Let me back out, go back into the right conversation.
Yep.
It wasn't streamlined enough for me.
I think Asana is great. Sorry.
Do you use it now?
No, but I've worked on something similar, and I could almost make a guess that it's the same, but I used to use Basecamp before when I worked for a company. But Asana is a lot similar in the sense that you can make threads as opposed to little chat group, and there's a good calendar. There's a lot more tools in terms of scheduling and grouping names that are just on that project as opposed to just having everybody in Well, I
in one
don't know
big.
how Slack works, but it feels like it's,
Yeah,
you
no,
know, yeah,
everybody is in one big pool. And
exactly.
yes, it gets noisy after
I
a
think it's good
while.
if if you have a medium-sized company, but if it's just like me and I just need someone to kind of, kind of a proverbial like whiplash to kind of make
Yeah.
sure I'm always on top of it. I think we figured out that Slack and Asana are a little bit too overqualified for the things we need. I think right now
Okay.
with the scale that I'm working on, a problem that I have, I just need like a calendar to
Yeah.
make sure I'm on track of things. So
Yes, yes. And for anyone who is listening and you don't know what Asana or Slack is or are, I will put links to them. And
okay,
basically, they're time management tools that are
project
supposed
managing tools. Yeah,
sorry, yes, thank you. Project management tools that are supposed to help you just get more organized. And as you can probably tell, different ones work differently for different people. But I'll link to them if you're trying to get yourself organized. It's good to check them out because I just think we all think so differently. And, someone might love Slack
yeah.
and someone else might not. And Asana, and I know there's Trello. There are a whole bunch of them
True.
out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what works really best for a lot of people is my Quill and Fox weekly planners. How's that for a product plug? No, I'm kidding.
That is great. Yes. And I will link directly to
It
your,
really depends. Yeah, it really depends on the kind of brain we have. A lot of people love writing it down.
yeah.
And that's kind of how my project manager is. She loves the calendar. We kind of encode it digitally, but at the same time during the meeting, people still like to grab a pen and a notepad and
Yeah.
write it down, and it feels a lot more tactile and you're more in control and it processes in your brain a lot more
Yeah.
crisper,
I'm one of those. I have a
Yeah.
notebook. It's a physical notebook.
Are
And
you a post-it gal? Do you like to put
I
post-its
do
on
love my
everything?
post-its.
Yeah.
I do. I do. All colors.
Yep. That's how
Yes. Everything is color coded, and I need to see it. I'm very visual. I'll also
Exactly.
use the notes app on my phone so
Yep.
that in case I forget, and now I love that now you can put reminders.
Yeah, you
So
get pinged if
yes,
you
you get
forget it. Yeah.
pinged. So because I need that, but to log into a system where I have to go and look and see if something is done, if it's virtual, to me it's not. I don't take it seriously enough, and I like to see my lines crossed through the things I need to do. And
Exactly.
I like to scrunch up my post-it notes when they're done and throw them away. And then I
Exactly.
know
It's
done.
kind of it definitely, yeah, it's great on your mind. You know that you
Yeah.
scrunched it up and it's done. You kind of
Yes.
conquered that task.
Yes. And so, let's see. Well, I was going to try and be funny and say, I'll put a link to where you can buy Post-it notes.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Walmart, Target,
Yeah,
everywhere.
you know it is. Yeah.
So, what inspires your designs? Where do you come up with the designs that you have on your products? Do they just come from inside you? Are you inspired by nature, or where does all that come from?
I think a little bit of both. I get inspired initially, I get inspired by color palettes a lot. Like when I see a really great color palette, I get so excited. Like if it's a good mixture of really bright ones with complementing like neutral colors, I get super amped up. Like I love abstracting shapes and just seeing exactly how I can make it into a totally different kind of art. Like I love someday, I plan to do this for people, like where I'd see, let's say someone's it's someone just opened up their desk and there's properly, it's so, the aesthetic is so amazing, where there's a good mint green notebook and then a nice color, and for me, if I just kind of squint my eyes, I see the palette and I work from that, and just seeing something like unassuming become this drawing. I would like to blow people's mind and be like, whoa, how did you come up? But mostly, yeah, I love looking at online. I just seeing my friends who are artists too, and the people I follow on Instagram. They're a good source of inspiration for me. Just seeing how hard they work and how they improve and how they push their craft makes me, it reminds me not to slack off and to keep pushing my work and to work more. But I also draw inspiration from old children's book and the classics. I love Roger Duverson. I love Charlie Harper. I love Bill Watterson. I love the way he draws trees and just I don't know, the masters. I love looking how they do things and just the kind of work ethic they bring to the table.
Yeah. Now, I don't know who any of those artists are, but I will tell you, when you said children's books, it rang a bell for me because some of your art looks very much like I remember those vintage children's books, like the little golden books?
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Yes.
That's a really big compliment.
That's what it reminds me of. Do you ever find that sometimes you just have you're in a rut and you're just not getting any new inspiration for designs? And if you do, how do you pull yourself out of those times?
Yeah, no, all the time. I think that's one of it's a constant process for me. Mostly, you know, there's definitely good merits in just stepping back and doing something else. Like that's something I learned even from advertising, because all day all we do is brainstorm and chasing the next big thing, the big idea. And there's good merits in saying, okay, step back, do something else, relax, unwind. Eventually, eureka moment will get to you. You know, it'll just fall on your lap. But for me, I think, that's a balancing act. You can just pull away, but eventually you have to get back to the drawing board to get stuff done. And you can't, it's so easy for a lot of young creatives to just run from it and be like, oh, I don't know, I'm in a rut, I can't do it. I think, you got to treat it like a job if you want it to be a job. And a rut isn't really an excuse, not, it sounds so unsympathizing, but it's, you have to really just, I try to balance those things, making sure I spend my downtime in a way that cultivates my creative process. Like some days it's that straightforward as forcing yourself to sit down on your desk and draw and create really crappy work for a good few hours. Just draw, you're not doing well, we just keep doing it. Maybe, you're rusty, and then try again tomorrow. It's okay to say, well, today wasn't a good night, but I'll try again tomorrow. Because for me, the ego, like I actually am super hard on myself. Some days I feel like I suck. Oh God, it's horrible. But I've been through this so many times over that I know it's a cycle. Like, because there are days where I'm like, oh yeah, I'm so good. Oh my God, but I know that there will be days where I'm like, this is horrible. Like, I hate, like, who am I fooling? Why am I fooling so many people? But it's just to know, like, no matter, like, if you're a new artist or if you're an artist that I've enjoyed a measure of success, and it's good to know that it's a cycle that everyone goes through. My mom is an artist, and she doesn't do much of it anymore, and she's stuck in that. And I tell her the same thing. It's like, the problems you have, I have too. It's not like time has passed you by and it's because I'm doing this. It's like we all go through it. It's good. I think it's the first thing to know if you're in a creative rut. It's not because you're lacking of skill or it's something that young artists go through. Everyone goes through it, and it's just about manning up and riding the cycle. As long as you're helping yourself, still do work even if it's scrappy. I love one of my favorite ones, writers is Neil Gaiman, and he's such a good just supporter of the art community, and he condenses it to the most simple approach. It's just keep doing art. That's the best way to kind of overcome a rut, is just keep making. Just getting it out of your system. If it's a bad one, get it out of your system. Keep making art. Some days it'll be as flighty or as ephemeral as getting that right energy that fires you up, and you do it perfectly in one go. But it won't always be that way. There'll be nights where you have to just I suck until you're like, oh, I'm amazing. So anxiety and restlessness is usually my worst enemy. So podcast really helps me kind of just stay the course, just talk to someone while you're drawing. Yeah, it kind of tunes you out, and you're working. You're not impatient.
Yes, I feel like I can be part of a conversation, but not have to
especially
actually
this
talk.
Podcast.
Oh, thank you. Do you ever, for the pieces that you make that you're not 100% pleased with, do you ever end up actually releasing those to the public, or do you just put them aside and then only release the ones that you're happy with?
So far, actually, let me think about it. Sometimes I actually just, because when I don't like it, it's not like I actually give up on it. I'd say, let's try again tomorrow, because I like to start my designs with really sound ideas that I really believe in. And then if it doesn't work, I think it's usually the execution that falls behind. So I just like, well, this is such a great idea. Let me try again tomorrow. Maybe the colors were too dark or something like, let's glaze it. Maybe I'm caking in too much paint and, not letting paper show through. But it was such a great idea. And maybe that's why I always love like my advertising background. It always comes back. It's like, have a sound idea and it's just going to keep it. It'll have legs. If it's a great idea, it'll carry you through. Just keep going through the right execution for it. But I've had experiences where I've had a company visit me in my apartment actually. I think it was like Anthropology, and they were looking at my store and they told me that sometimes they like to go to other artists' places and rummage through their garbage. Thank goodness like the garbage. I'm sorry, I should clarify that. Like that when you have like a bin where you throw all your shitty art, whatever. They like going through that. I was really thankful that I just really got rid of mine because I'd hate when people go through that kind of stuff. But I guess it's kind of every artist's insecurity to because maybe your trash is other people. Like if fresh eyes would actually really like it. So I think maybe don't throw away your bad work and have someone look at it with fresh eyes and see if it has a potential you haven't even explored before, and maybe it'll work in a different direction.
I like that. So let's talk about how you get the word out. You've been selling for a while. Do you put a lot of effort into marketing your shop and marketing your products, or and if so, what specifically do you do? Do you rely primarily on social media, blogging, craft shows, or vendor shows? What's your strategy?
I definitely am super reliant on online, just social media. I've been lucky so far that it has carried us through, and we've built a momentum of clients and wholesalers. Etsy wholesale has been phenomenal, and just kind of bringing new stockists to our way. And I guess I should ask them how they find out about us, but I think it's mostly Instagram. I think it's such a amazing tool for artists and shops to kind of showcase not only their work, but sort of the personality behind the shop, because that's what a lot of people look forward to. It's not just the product, but it's the kind of, the life behind it. And I think that has worked well for us. And, it has gravitated brands that see how you curate, your social media presence. That's really the bulk of like our marketing efforts, and we're so lucky to kind of just live by that.
And I know it didn't hurt, but back in 2013, you were one of the featured shops on the Etsy blog, or the Etsy journal, as it was.
That was great.
Called.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. How did that come about?
Yeah, I don't know how did that come out, but it was great. I mean, I think we were like a 3-year-old company at that time, and those things, I mean, every little bit helps, and it was just phenomenal. A lot of comments, and I'm always anxious reading comments, because you never know. But I mean, it has been overwhelming. The Etsy community has been really supportive. It's a super supportive bunch, and I've only known positive experiences from Etsy, and I don't know, it really helped us. Like we got so much signal boost, and I remember because apart from that, we also got like a feature from them during one of their holiday gift things, and it was pretty big. Like that was like the heyday of Instagram, and they posted about us, and they had so much followers and sent so many our way and so many inquiries our way. So never a bad thing, never hurts.
Yeah. So you just got on their radar. There's nothing.
Yeah. Pretty
okay.
much. No.
Okay.
Yeah. No. I don't think there's like a certain system to get there. I think they really just look through. Maybe it's like numbers. Maybe they kind of skim through sales, but we've just been lucky to be featured.
Oh, that's great. Okay, so for anyone who's listening, the secret to getting featured is just be great.
Be great and luck. No, I think it's mostly. Presenting your shop in a way that's very polished, regardless if it's like you're a one-man company. I think it's good to. Maybe it's probably one of your questions, but it's good to really polish your branding, to really, take this seriously. Even if you're just launching it, really have really clean product shots, show your process, show the people behind the work. And I think that's the kind of thing that Etsy likes to
I think
feature,
so
like,
too. Yeah.
to show your process, show the culture behind it. That's the kind of stuff. So it's not super unachievable, even, as a mom and pop 2-man company. I mean, it's something that you just have to be more conscious about.
Yeah. Okay. And for everyone listening, when Yas says 2-man company, your husband actually does help with some of the stuff in your Etsy shop, right?
Not so much these days because he's gotten busy. He used to, even when he was helping me a lot before, he used to also run a company, an animation company.
Oh, okay.
But he mostly helps me with emails, production, sometimes, just the day-to-day, hey, do this gal is waiting on something. And he's been great at that because he's a super organized guy and I'm like super unorganized.
That helps.
But yeah, it helps. I mean, that doesn't hurt. But lately, since he's gotten busy, I've been taking the helm more and both. And that's why I had to hire a project manager to kind of help me.
Oh, right. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, but yeah, 2-man team, man. It's because we all work in different mind modes. Some people are going to be more of a Virgo. I don't know.
And then you also have a website, quillandfox.com, which I will link to so everyone can go and check that out.
Thank you. Yeah.
Now, do you run that? How much time does that take for you to run and operate? And comparing the sales that you get from there with Etsy, which one do you think is giving you more bang for your buck?
Well, first of all, yeah, it was definitely a lot of time investment to get that website going. I'm lucky enough to sort of know my way around coding. There's a lot of preset like e-commerce site that you can kind of get started and you can tweak it, but it definitely takes a lot of time. To put in a lot of products and make sure everything works. I'm sure, a lot of people know the rigorous work that goes with e-commerce sites and it's a headache, and then troubleshooting if something goes wrong. But I love having that as well as Etsy only because there's a lot more flexibility in terms of layout and how to present yourself and appearing more of like, having your own quillandfox.com. I thought, just is a lot more kind of straight to the point. But I definitely love, we definitely still get more of our traffic in Etsy. Okay. And bang for the buck, obviously, if you have your website, you kind of bypass a lot of the fees. But I think the amount of traffic you get on Etsy anyway, I think it kind of offsets the fees, because I mean you're getting a lot, especially come holiday. But lately, though, I've been surprised to see. I don't know how it'll be this year, but last year it was kind of astounding to see our site be sort of par to par with the amount of traffic with Etsy, and I'm not always happy. I'm not always happy about that because I don't have as much of a streamlined shipping label system with my site.
Yeah,
and so it's like it's a lot more kind of. It's not as streamlined. I have to do a lot of clicking and making sure they all fall into a page. But Etsy's great. Like I'm sure like their shipping label is so cool. It's just like magic wand.
Oh my goodness, yes. And I recently I wrote about this on the site, just bought a label printer, and I am so in love with that thing. It's not even funny.
Oh my gosh. No, it's like, it's a tease because when I go to my site, I'm like, it's almost like, oh, I had an order. I have to print the no, I'm kidding guys. No, but it's like, when it comes come holidays, I start to appreciate the way that streamlines way more with Etsy shipping. Yeah. It's just amazing.
Yeah, there definitely are advantages. And I've had to, and I've had to, like, for not that much, but a couple of times when the checkout just hasn't worked for a buyer.
Oh, right.
Had to,
on Etsy?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
And had to get creative with making sure they get the product and, and work around that. And I tell you, it makes me appreciate the integrated shipping system so much more, because I'm like, I have to, I'll go to PayPal and use their shipping
Yeah, yeah, yes.
Yes.
The quote unquote multi shipping thing, but it's
Yes.
just as
Oh
painful
my
of a
goodness.
process.
It's so
Do
painful.
you? It's
Yes.
such a waste of paper too, because they printed one a page, and I hate wasting sticker
Yes.
paper. And I don't
Yes.
have time to pull them all up in Illustrator and plop them.
Oh yeah. No,
Not
I
during the
don't.
holidays, no
No,
way.
no, I don't bother. I'm just like, okay,
No,
this is what
it's
it
like all
is.
right, it's the cost. It's the cost of business.
Yes.
Do you have a retail site as well?
No, I had one before, but no, not now.
It's such a pain. Yeah, yeah.
It
You're like, ah,
is,
never
yeah,
mind.
because I
Why?
know the pain you speak of, and I did before, but not now, just because it's work. It's
Yeah, I
work
know.
because you're responsible for driving your own traffic there too.
Yeah.
And
That's why I like keeping both. It's no risk to just have both,
yes, and if the unfortunate day comes where something happens with Etsy, then at least you're already set up on that side.
I hope so. I hope the traffic, all of them goes to my site, or not just disappear altogether.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious that the traffic on quillandfox.com was rivaling Etsy traffic, because then that could be a really good sign.
During the holidays.
Well, even then, because then it could mean that people are searching for you,
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
And so
And
then
I think it's coming from Instagram. It's definitely coming. I don't, yeah, because I have a
yeah,
direct link to it, and that's how I definitely. No, I'm really thankful about that.
yeah.
I do get a lot of just the casual, buyers on Etsy more, because I don't know how they find me. I'm not the most diligent with tagging my work, but they just do. I mean, maybe I do. Do you look at your search, the search words people use to get to your site? I think if you have an
No,
Etsy shop,
I'm not
it's such a good way to
that.
look at it and see how they find you. Are they looking for just
Yeah.
random cards, or are you looking for you specifically?
Yeah, I've looked, but I don't. Okay, I confess, I don't really act on the information. I see it, but then I know I should do better with it. Like, oh,
Yeah, yeah. It's like, oh, FYI. Okay,
yeah,
cool.
FYI, this is what somebody landed on. Do I have that as one
Same
of my
here. I'm the
tags?
same way.
I
I'm
don't
the same.
think
I'm like,
so.
I'm the same way.
But then sometimes I think to myself, well, they found me, so why do I
Cool.
really need to?
Yeah, keep doing what I'm doing, I guess.
Yeah, I'm like, I must be doing fine.
Yeah. And yeah, when we're done, I want to know what your shop is,
Sure,
so I can kind
sure.
of visit it.
Oh, absolutely. So now, what is your Instagram strategy, if you have one? I read all
Of
these
course I do.
articles about having, what they call it. There's something they say about Instagram, like a flow or something. But do you have one?
Um, mm, I'd like to say I do, in a sense that the same way we conduct ourselves online with a mindful behavior, as opposed to just, even in your Facebook, where all you have is just your family. I feel like you always have to have a strategy where you don't want to. There's always etiquette, The same way with Cohen Fox, mostly, even more so because it's a public account and I have a wide audience. So I like to, as much as I want to keep posting, for example, pictures of my dog and, my, woke up like this. I don't. I don't. It's good to do a lot of, lately though, but way back when I started, when Instagram was super new, everyone was excited by anything. Ice cream behind a brick, in front of a brick wall. Everyone's like, amazing. But now it's like, people look for kind of more soul to every post. And I love posting my process shots. Back then I just post my art, and even if it's just cards and saying, a lot, oh, cool pencils. I don't do that anymore. I feel like, I'm not posting just to get likes. I like to post to share, and that will resonate, because people can get tired of the same usual, and they start looking for something. I hate to use the word authentic, but they like to just look for something a bit more sincere. I mean, you have to respect your audience. It is, yeah. And it's a balance. Sometimes I find myself posting way too much process, forgetting that I'm also a shop, so I should post about not just the new art I'm doing, but art that I've already done before, and kind of remind people. And it's like, hey, I have, like, it's a balance. Like, so sometimes I try to be better at it, saying, I know this card is old, but it's still in your shop, and you probably should need to promote it, But I feel like, oh, it's old. I've done better stuff than that. But people love it, and you do have to do that. So I think it's a balance of promoting some of, even only if it really strikes me. I love to always stay, sincere. I'm like, oh, look, and there's always a story behind it. Like, being reminiscent about this card, and it's, and you share that it was one of your first Valentine card, and it's still available in the shop. And then, but some days I post about my process. Like, people love seeing me live paint before. I wish I could do more of that. Just work in progress pictures. People love seeing your process, and then maybe a little bit of your day to day. Maybe it's like 80% art, 20%. Dog. I don't know, or something.
Yeah, dog is life.
Dog is life. Yeah. So,
do you ever do the live?
I want to. I'm really shy. I don't know if I could ever do it without feeling super, like, I don't know. How am I doing now? I know.
You're doing great. Now, are you shy
Really?
to show your hands?
My hands are, no, not really. My hands?
Okay.
No.
Yeah, no. And the reason I ask
I love
is
my hands,
because I'm glad. Is because so there's someone who I follow, and she does I don't know, I can't remember what they call those Instagram videos, like live.
Oh, right. Yeah. Live feed.
Yeah, the live feeds. Her name is Julie, and she runs the Etsy shop
Julie.
Tokyo Blossom. And
Tokyo Blossom.
I had her on the podcast, and she does them, every once in a while she'll do one. And what I like is that the app will tell you, oh, so and so is doing a video or something, watch.
Yeah.
And
it definitely lets
she'll
you know.
show how she makes something. But she doesn't, at least the ones I've seen, she doesn't always show her face. She's just showing you how she's making something. So it's just her hands. And
Yeah.
I'm
true.
just intrigued by them. I
I
like
could do
watching
that.
her videos. So that's why I was asking, well, are you shy about showing your hands?
No, thanks for giving me the idea. Because the ones I've seen is them talking, and I always assume that a live feed would be like,
No.
hey, everybody, this is me. And I could totally just show my hands in painting. I mean, I like my
Yeah,
hands.
because that's what people want to see. If, they love your
Yeah.
cards, they love
I don't
your
even
artwork.
need to get dressed for it.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I could still wear my pajamas and be painting. No, I'm kidding. But no, yeah. There's something maybe I would love to do. I think I love that people have this opportunity now to share live feed stuff of their work. And I'm always keeping an eye on that. I also want to do Skillshare. I want to learn how to present myself more without, too much hand gestures. I want to instruct. I love to one day have a workshop where I can kind of share, I don't know, something. I mean, I must know something, but I want to show like people how to draw critters. I don't know, or, like an art workshop.
Yes, I'm looking at
That would
your
be
shop,
awesome.
and I'm looking at your Instagram feed, and you know a lot. You don't just know
I do.
something. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yes.
I might know something.
You
Thank
could
you.
could share so much. So if I can
Thank
be
you.
any encouragement to you.
Oh my God,
Do
that means
it.
a lot. No. Okay, I'm starting it tomorrow.
All right. I'm going to follow you today. Okay. So now let's talk about selling on Etsy. You've been on Etsy for a while now, and you've seen, like I said earlier, the platform evolve. What are some things that you really enjoy the most about selling on Etsy that you haven't already mentioned? And on the flip side, are there some features that you would like to see implemented on the Etsy platform that don't currently exist?
Okay. Well, things I really enjoy. It sounds super utilitarian, but I love the traffic that they bring in.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. and I love the way they promote products. I noticed a lack of, I used to get this a lot when I was starting, a lot of treasury. I noticed, is that a thing that people still do?
Oh, no. Okay.
I don't do that anymore. I don't get that anymore.
No,
Like, did people
treasuries
stop?
are done with. Etsy stopped the whole treasury
I guess
thing.
it's kind of a good thing. What's your opinion on that?
Well, I used to like to make them, but quite honestly, I didn't really know if by the time I
It was
came onto
working.
the scene, if they were working or what the essence was of them. I used to
Right.
like to make them just because I used to like to curate. But, as far as traffic and sales, I don't know that the treasuries, that at least the
Yeah.
ones I made, ever benefited anyone that
Yeah.
was in them,
Yeah.
except
And I felt
me.
and I feel like there's no, go ahead. Sorry.
Sorry, no, I was gonna say except me, because I just enjoyed putting
Yeah,
something
and
together
that's
where it was a cohesive thing, and I could say, "Look at what I made,"
yeah, and you
out of
feel
what everybody
happy.
else
Yeah, yeah.
made.
Exactly. And I think that was the essence of it, and I wish it stayed that way, but I think it evolved into like I put you in my treasury, you put me in your treasury, and people started creating a circle of like
Mm,
we make treasuries out of each other's work, as opposed to
mm,
a more genuine approach where you're like, pulling from shops I don't even know, and they might not even know me, and I'm not
yeah,
getting anything out of it. Just
yeah.
love their work. And but I used to get a lot of that notification, and to the point where it kind of flooded my inbox.
Hmm.
And yeah, I noticed there was a lack of it, and I guess I didn't know that they actually phased that out. So
Yeah, they
wow, that's
officially,
interesting.
and I'm trying to think when it was earlier this year, they officially
Oh, right,
phased
right.
out treasuries and said they were going to focus on other ways to help promote Etsy shops,
That's
because
good.
I guess the original intent that they created the treasuries for just wasn't
Yeah.
what it was
They
anymore.
they probably didn't expect to get this big to the point where there was way too many treasuries, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
hard to break through. I love the traffic. I love the way they promote. I
yeah.
mean, I think this is kind of a controversial issue because a lot of shops have different stories. Some people feel like they're not promoted enough. Some people think there's a favoritism that
Oh
happens.
my goodness. Yes,
Do you do, you-
yes,
do
that could be a whole other episode.
you know about that, right? And it's tough.
I've gotten wind, yes.
Yes, and I one time, because I mean, I'm being honest here. It's not something as a shop. If you ever get featured, it's never something we do. It really
Hmm.
just happens, and
Hmm.
you know, but like I've gotten one before where I got featured at like this one of these Christmas things, and there was a weird backlash because it felt like Etsy was promoting just one shop when it was a rotation of maybe 8 shops. Maybe
Hmm.
that's still too little for some people, but yeah, I think a lot of shops just feel like, and I think they're right to feel that. I think, and from my experience, the reason why I love having my shop in Etsy is I like to think that, I feel like the company really evolves and try to fix. It's not perfect, and it tries to look at the imbalances and try to find a solution that would work for everyone. I've seen it change over the years where it listened to complaints and tried to fix problems. So I'm hoping that eventually it'll give smaller shops a chance. The search system is
Oh,
it's almost useless
yes.
because there's so many shops. So I don't know, but it's
Yes.
interesting. I get their frustration, and
Yeah,
but
and
yeah,
I
but to
do
my end, we
too.
don't do anything. We don't pay anybody to be featured or anything.
Yeah. Okay, well, good. I mean, I didn't think anyone did,
Yeah,
really. I
no, no
mean,
one. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, I think, well, I just didn't think anyone did. I do think that they probably have editors or an editorial team
Mm-hmm.
that is scouring and looking, and you just have to stand out. Like, I know I'm never going to
Yeah.
be featured because my shop doesn't stand out, but that's because I haven't really done enough to make it
Okay.
stand
Yeah, yeah.
out in such a way that it would attract the eye of an
Exactly.
editor. Plus, I sell vintage, like, crafting supplies. That's
Okay.
not really, something I think that would,
Well, you never know.
well, okay, maybe, yeah, it's true. I never
That will
know.
be next year's trend or something like that.
I know, thrifting is it. Yeah. But so anyway, that's a whole other thing. But
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
I know there's some grumbling. I know that not everyone is happy. But at the end of the day, my philosophy is, why are you selling on Etsy? What are you, what part does that play in the grand scheme of the business that you're trying to run and the goals you're trying to achieve? Are you able to achieve them using it for what it's worth, or
Mm-hmm.
are you expecting more from it than is realistic? And I've said it before on the podcast that Etsy is a tool in your toolbox. So it's great for what it is, but you have to use it for what it is. And I do think they're trying. I've tried to keep up with what the new CEO is doing and talking about. And yes, everyone knows the search is a big deal. And, he's constantly saying they're working on the search. And I believe that they are. But between now and then, I don't think it's a horrible place to be. I think
not at all.
Yeah, no, I think it works. It could be better, but it could be worse.
Yeah. No. I mean, a friend of mine that I met on Instagram, they're called Black Springs Folk Art. They make veneer wooden glasses. Becca and Doug are the people behind it. And they used to be Tumbleweeds before. They're called Tumbleweeds. But now they're called Black Springs Folk Art and on Instagram and on Etsy too. And I remember she told me before that she said that she's had a lot of problems with Etsy and contemplated moving to a new site, just her own site. But before that, I think she got on a phone call with them. And I think if anyone is frustrated, it's always good to contact the company. You'd be surprised how receptive they are to people who take the initiative. She got on a phone call with them. And they're incredibly receptive, and they told her there's, the company has a lot of growth. Like they're really thinking about retooling a lot of the things that, I mean, obviously it's so much easier to criticize if you're not part of the process itself and not seeing how complicated it is to kind of keep the wheels turning. But they're surprisingly receptive, and they say, the company, Etsy is going to evolve, and they're always looking to kind of, listen to these needs. They can't do it all at once, but I've seen them incorporate Etsy wholesale, and it's been phenomenal for us, at least, just how that changes the way we do our wholesale. Like we get a lot from it.
Oh,
and
good.
It's pretty crazy.
Well, I have to say, I'm impressed that she reached out to them and had a conversation. I don't think many people would think to actually do that. But if you think about it in real life, if you have a problem with someone as a mature adult, you will approach them and try and resolve whatever the issue is. So I like that approach. And
because it's like diverting your energy to not complaining, but to kind of, confronting the problem.
Yes. And the likelihood that you will come to a satisfactory resolution is higher if you have a mature conversation. Absolutely. Now, the only thing is, I don't know how we talked about this on another podcast when someone had talked about calling Etsy and having a conversation with them, and I promised I would find the phone number. And if you're listening and you heard me make that promise, I still have not found this elusive phone number for Etsy. One day I will, and I promise you, the day I find the phone number, I will share it here.
I think it's good to email. I'm pretty sure you can email and then you can give you the phone number. Are you sure it's not on the site?
Well, okay, so here's the deal. There's no phone number on the site, but you can get a phone call from Etsy. And I guess I should say that. So there's no, you won't find a phone number. At least I didn't find a phone number, but you can fill out a form if you go to the support section.
There you go.
And fill out a form, and they ask you, do you want to receive a call? And you put your phone information, and then they'll call you. But they have specific calling hours. It's like 9 to 5 Central if you're Central Time, if you're in the US.
Because they're in Brooklyn, aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if the phone call people, because it's Central Time. It lists the time zone as Central.
Central Time. All right.
And then the only other caveat is they only offer phone calls in English and German. And then the hours for the German phone calls. I know. So, woohoo, Germany. And the hours for the phone calls are, for the German phone calls are different from the hours for the English. They're more limited than for English language. So that much I know. Hopefully that will help somebody. So no phone number, but they will call you.
They will call you. I mean, and it might take a while. Like sometimes they're really quick, even in emails. Sometimes they're really slow. It really depends on, your issue. One time I had to, have you ever tried making coupons on Etsy and then?
Yes, and I
once
gave
you
up.
Once you make the coupon, you can't use the same coupon anymore. Oh, that's horrible.
Yes.
So never delete your coupon. Just disable them if you want to reuse them again. Never delete them, because once you delete them, you can't put them back in your system.
Yes, I remember. Yeah, I tried that, and yes, because when I was trying to figure out how to do the coupons the first time, I would start, and then I'd do a test and realize, oh, I made a mistake, I should have done this instead. And then, like if I wanted to do like 20% off and it would say, 20% off sale or something, well, I couldn't reuse that because I'd already used that. So anyway, yes. But now they have a whole new sale and couponing system, which is a topic for another episode, which I will record another day.
For sure.
But yes, they do have a new system, which I don't know if it still has the same quirks as the other one, but I'll dig into it.
Yeah. That would come, opportune time during the holidays too. So I'd love to know.
Oh yes. Oh, good reminder for me. Now, yes. Okay. Can you talk to that seller? Now, you've been selling for a while, so you're a veteran seller. Can you talk to that veteran seller who right now is feeling a little bit disillusioned selling on Etsy? What would you say to encourage that person?
Oh, yeah. I think, well, it really depends on, I think it would be good to be honest with yourself, it's good to reassess. Like sometimes, I'm a big proponent of having a strong product, and a product that has legs will just work for you. And the marketing thing, like I'm not saying my products has legs, but not to lift my own bench, but in my experience, if it's a strong product, all the marketing efforts and even Etsy and all its like fine features, it can only do so much if it's if there's something wrong with your product in the way you market it. Oh, well, kind of negated myself there, but in a way that because it could either be that it's an inferior, you're not pushing your product as much as it should have been, and even if you're having all this amazing product photography and it's still not selling and using all the hashtags, or maybe it's a great product and you're not putting in the time marketing it. It's good to be honest where you're lacking. And if it's the marketing effort, then maybe you're in better shape to just kind of hire the right people. If it's outside your expertise, invest in someone who knows what they're doing. But if it's a product itself, I think that's a harder conversation to have with yourself, and to see that if you've been doing this for a few years and it's not going anywhere, maybe if you're already done, if you already tried doing like Saturday market, if you're actually have been in the marketplace and people have seen your work and it's still not working out for you, it's never a scary thing. I mean, it could be a scary thing to feel like you have to go back to the drawing board, but if you believe in your tenacity as an artist to keep, finding out what works, I think it's never a bad place to be in. It's a great place to be in, that you realize something is not working, as opposed to like lying to yourself,
Yeah.
for like so many years. And if you believe in your stamina as an artist, I guess, keep trying, I think you'll be in good shape.
Yes. Oh, thank you. That's really good advice. And I hear so many times how, sometimes, a lot of times, the first thing we try or the first thing we do is not it. And then just sticking with it, if we know that something will work, just being, like you said, tenacious and persevere. So thank you for that.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it, it's the same way with like, I have the same way with illustrating, and you're like, because I do a bit of oil painting, and it's sometimes when you're so close, you have a kind of like a myopic approach because it's your own baby, and you've been looking at it and like, you're just too close to it, and you don't see the problem anymore. It's good to just step back and reassess. And then if it's hard for you to reassess, do a process of elimination. Is it marketing? Is it branding? Is it my line? Is something wrong with my line? Is it my work good, but my line isn't as expansive? Am I not hitting what the market needs? It's just good to eliminate until you get to the bottom of it, I think. And it's the same with my drawing. It's like, is it the color? Is it the composition? What's wrong with it? And it's good to have that approach, just kind of dissect it almost scientifically.
Yeah. Well, yes, you do have a lot that you can share.
Yeah, thank you. It's good to know.
If someone wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way they can reach you?
Well, email is a good way, and I love how casual Instagram is too. I have quite a bit of followers, but I always try to reply to a lot of people that comment on there. So I'm pretty good at, hit me a DM or comment on there, or if it's something that requires a little bit more kind of a letter, you can always email me in at yas@quillandfox.com. I'm pretty good at replying.
Okay.
Usually, yeah.
Usually, I know, me too.
I try to.
All right. So I will have all of Yas's contact information in the show notes for this episode, so you can reach out to her if you want to, if there's something that maybe we didn't touch on or you have a question about. I will also link to her Etsy shop. Please go check out her cards and all her illustrated art. It's fabulous. And her commissioned work, and just see what she's doing on Etsy. Yes, thank you so much for being my guest. I'm so glad that Sarah mentioned you to me, and I really appreciate you saying yes. I know I told you before that I'm used to getting no's, and so I really appreciate you taking the time out to do this and spend time with me and just come on the podcast.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me, and I'm really flattered that Sarah from the UK requested that I do this podcast with you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And I thank you for listening to this episode. I will be back next week.
Thank you for listening. You can subscribe to the podcast in iTunes, and while you're there, please leave a review too. Visit convome.com to leave a comment or feedback on this episode.